when we think about these practices, oftentimes I find both clients and students of mine become so focused on formal meditation. And it's important for us to really remember that we practice formally so that we might be able to be more attuned to our life and be able to be more aware of our experiences as we move throughout the day. I often remind myself and also my clients and students of a quote from Jung, who said, "Unless we make the unconscious conscious, it drives our life, and we call it fate." But of course, in order to be able to make the unconscious conscious, we have to make space to be able to turn towards things that cause us often dis-ease. And we are naturally wired to turn away from things that are painful and turn towards things that feel comfortable and pleasurable, that oftentimes our natural biology keeps us from connecting into important wisdom. And so part of why we practice mindfulness is to try to bring as much into our conscious awareness. And why we practice mindfulness with compassion is so that we might be able to hold ourselves tenderly while we do this important work, because it can be difficult. And so the mindfulness, the self-kindness, but then also what is so beautifully reflected with everybody being here and practicing is also the concept of common humanity, is reminding ourselves that, it is so easy for us to fall into the shame of, this is such a unique experience for me, and, I'm uniquely broken, there's something negative about me. And suddenly, when you can connect into that larger common humanity, not in a way to do a comparison of who's better or who's worse, because that is pretty corrosive, but when we can connect into the common humanity and see that, yes, I'm not alone, even in my imperfection, even my messiness, even in my humanity, I'm not alone. And so that itself also gives us some more space to be with our practice. So let's go ahead and begin today by helping to put yourself in a comfortable position. You will know for your own body in this moment what feels good and supportive. So that may be sitting in a way that allows you to be alert but relaxed. It may be standing up and having some movement to your body. Or it may also be lying down, if that feels most supportive in meeting what you need right now. So let's begin by just kind of attending to your body and really getting yourself centered and comfortable, listening to the feedback from your body, listening to what it needs, and adjusting and settling yourself accordingly. And perhaps let's begin by paying attention to the sounds that you hear, either inside or outside of the room. The practice is to simply notice what's there, without a particular judgment of whether you have a preference for the sound or not, and without even the need to figure out what the sound is, simply noticing what is there. And if your mind wanders as you're getting settled down, just notice that as well. Take a couple of deep breaths and then open back up to noticing the sounds around you. Just taking this moment to allow your mind and your heart and your body to just show up in one place, if even just for a few breaths. Now, one thing that is very supportive and helpful when we do this work, especially turning towards things that might be uncomfortable for us, is to try to create a really nice, soft, and spacious foundation. As I often say, a drop of ink in a small cup of water has a much greater impact than if we drop that same amount of ink in a large ocean. So let's turn towards one of the core practices of mindful self-compassion, of affectionate breathing. So shifting your awareness from sounds, I now invite you to notice your body's process of breathing. For some of you, it may be easy to notice the gentle expansion of your abdomen. For some of you, you may notice the very gentle rise and fall of your chest. And for some of you, it may be easier to simply notice the flow of air at the very tip of your nose. Noticing how cool the air is on the in-breath and how it's a bit warmer on the exhale. So now I invite you to integrate in a very direct and simple way to connect to the compassion practices by adding in a soothing touch. This may be placing a hand or hands on your heart, or perhaps gently cradling and caressing your face, or maybe gently stroking or squeezing your arms. Human touch allows us to release the wonderful cuddle hormone of oxytocin. And it's a wonderful way that our own hands can provide that loving support to our own bodies. So just take a moment to just notice the breath, enjoy the warmth and the pressure of your hands. And as you breathe, I invite you to consider just how enjoyable it can be to simply breathe. That flow of the fresh air in, filling up every cell, and the gentle release on the exhale. There's absolutely nothing you need to do at this moment, but just allow yourself to enjoy the flow of the breath. Now, perhaps expanding your awareness out to your whole body, depending on the position that you're in. You may notice that as the breath flows in and out, there's almost this very gentle way in which our body rocks back and forth. This gentle rocking is almost a primal, soothing sensation. And so perhaps allow yourself just to simply enjoy that gentle rocking motion. Or maybe allow it to remind you of something that brought you tremendous comfort and joy. Maybe being rocked in the arms of a loved one, or gently floating on the water. You know best what allows you to really connect in to and savor this experience. Just feeling the flow of the breath. And you might even notice how on the inhale, it's almost a very gentle caress within as the air flows in and out. And we're just going to take a few more breaths here. Now releasing the practice and just sitting quietly in your body. Just noticing how you feel. Allowing whatever arises to arise. And now hopefully with a little bit more spaciousness, I now invite you to our practice today of reflection. So taking a moment, consider something in your life right now. It could be something small, it could be something large, but something that is happening that you find yourself feeling some resistance to. The resistance can manifest as irritation, judgment, physical discomfort, rationalizations, a litany of why things should or shouldn't be this way. So take a moment to see if you can just identify anything in your life right now where you can notice tension in your relationship towards it. And perhaps notice in your body what starts to arise when you connect into whatever it is that you have selected. If at any point during the practice you start to feel overwhelmed, just come back to the breath, or open your eyes, or focus on sounds to recenter, and then come back to the reflection if you're able. But if you are able to be present, just notice what arises in your body. Perhaps you feel a tightness in your chest, or dis-ease in your stomach, maybe even a tightness in your jaw or your throat. And bringing the practice of mindfulness to what we are experiencing, simply acknowledging and validating what is happening. Perhaps that may simply be just saying to yourself, this hurts, or this is hard. Or maybe you might be able to identify the feeling that's arising. Like, oh, this is fear. Or this is anger. Or this is sadness. Seeing if you might be able to just gently label the feeling or feelings that might be arising in your relationship towards this experience that you are resisting. You know, sometimes judgment arises towards ourselves because of this tension, this tangle we have gotten ourselves into. And so it is so important to remind ourselves that whatever reaction we are having, we are not the first person, nor will we be the last person to ever have this kind of experience. In fact, all of the people who are on the practice right now have themselves identified something that they are resisting and are feeling some tension with. So reminding ourselves that what we are experiencing is a human experience. Just because it's uncomfortable doesn't make it wrong or bad. And if the dis-ease is showing up perhaps in a very particular spot or just all over, now maybe place a hand or hands on that place where the dis-ease is showing up, offering ourselves comfort because it hurts. And we're not trying to make it go away. We're trying to hold ourselves and it with some tenderness so that we might be able to hold it in our awareness. And maybe there are some supportive words that you might be able to offer yourself. Words that you really need to hear to acknowledge where you are and what you're experiencing. Always noticing that, if it's hard to come up with words for yourself, maybe pick a gentler path in. Perhaps think of what you might say to a friend. Or bring to mind somebody from whom it might be easier to receive some supportive words. Or maybe even consider words like, I'm here for you. You are not alone. It is hard to see you suffering. And now let's take some time to turn towards this resistance with some curiosity. I always emphasize for clinicians in training that I work with that resistance is important, that there is wisdom in resistance. It is an attempt to be safe. It is an attempt to care for ourselves. And so even when the new clinicians feel a sense of despair because they keep running into the resistance, I remind them resistance is something to be honored and not something to try to tear through. And so I invite you to take a moment to think a little bit about how this resistance is trying, perhaps, to help you feel safe. Maybe to try to save you from the pain of whatever it is that you are holding with tension. Keeping you from the pain of having to accept something. So just think a little bit about that for yourself. What is your resistance trying to do? How is it trying to help? Resistance and avoidance is a way to be safe, but it also keeps us stuck. So as you think about the ways in which the resistance is trying to be helpful, even though perhaps its methods are not effective in the long run, if it feels like it fits, perhaps consider expressing a little gratitude towards the resistance for its efforts, for its attempts to be helpful. So now I invite you to consider either if safety is the need that resistance is trying to provide, perhaps consider whether there are other ways to help you feel safe. Or perhaps if there's ways in which being mindful and holding yourself tenderly, that you might be able to find some of the courage to move slowly towards whatever it is that you are resisting. And think a little bit about what you might need in order to be able to do that. Maybe you might need to have some rest so that your body feels able to hold the dis-ease. Or maybe you need some support of a friend or a loved one. Or maybe perhaps it's the need of learning to trust yourself. So think a little bit about what you might need to help you slowly move forward, to engage with whatever it is that you are resisting, to help you move towards and through. Maybe you might even need some patience to just allow things to unfold. And now if you've been able to identify a need and a support, I invite you to see if you can really state that in a word or words. Really to articulate for yourself, what is it that I need? And as you inhale, I invite you to breathe in, stating that word, breathing in this thing that you need. Perhaps even adding a color or a light as you breathe it in and allow yourself to fill up on each in-breath with what you need. There's nothing you need to do at this moment, but just filling up your resources within. Breathing in this thing that you need again and again. And either continuing to focus on breathing in this good thing for yourself, if that's what you need. But if you have a little bit of space, I invite you to consider that what you need to help move towards whatever it is that you are resisting is probably a universal human need, and probably something that would be helpful to every single person practicing today in this community. And so, breathing in this good thing for yourself, I now invite you to consider on the exhale, breathing out this good thing to the entire community who is here practicing. Breathing in for me and breathing out for you. Allowing the ocean of compassion to just flow in and out. Reminding yourself that you are held by community. And just taking a few more breaths here. And releasing the practice and sitting quietly in your body, just noticing whatever it is that is arising. I invite you to listen to the words of this poem called Allow by Dana Folds. There is no controlling life. Try corralling a lightning bolt containing a tornado. Dam a stream and it will create a new channel. Resist, and the tide will sweep you off your feet. Allow, and grace will carry you to higher ground. The only safety lies in letting it all in, the wild and the weak, fear, fantasies, failures, and success. When loss rips off the doors of the heart, or sadness veils your vision with despair, practice becomes simply bearing the truth and letting the choice to let go of your known way of being. The whole world is revealed to your new eyes. I'll read that again. There is no controlling life. Try corralling a lightning bolt containing a tornado. Dam a stream and it will create a new channel. Resist, and the tide will sweep you off your feet. Allow, and grace will carry you to higher ground. The only safety lies in letting it all in. The wild and the weak, fear, fantasies, failures, and success. When loss rips off the doors of the heart, or sadness veils your vision with despair, practice becomes simply bearing the truth. And the choice to let go of your known way of being, the whole world is revealed to your new eyes. So I invite you to take a moment as we come to the end of our practice to perhaps connect into some of the wisdom that has arisen for you in trying to bear the truth and trying to turn towards what is. And to think a little bit about maybe an intention you might be able to set for yourself to slowly and gently start to move towards whatever it is that you are resisting. Or perhaps there's a specific action that you might be able to take. Honoring wherever you are in the process, just take a moment to think a little bit about that now. And just taking another minute to just finish up your thoughts, knowing you can always come back to continuing your exploration. And closing your eyes maybe just for one more minute, just to honor the work that you have done here. Perhaps expressing some gratitude towards yourself, towards the community, for holding yourself with practice. And now taking a few deep breaths at your own pace. And slowly opening your eyes.